Back in around 1983, I was running tankers for a company called Trimac. Now Trimac had one run that was a dedicated team run, and it ran from Sarnia to Elliott Lake. Things were a little slow on the single side. A senior guy named Donnie Palmer asked me if I'd like to run a team with him down to Sarnia and haul a load a day up to Elliott Lake. Things were a little slow for the single guys. Donnie was an excellent driver, and I knew the money would be good, so I agreed to do it. Now, I'd run cabovers on and off since the 70s, not very much, but a little bit, but I'd never run double in one. In fact, I'd never run double at all up until this point. Donnie and I met Sunday night and headed empty down to Sarnia to load. Donnie took the first shift, and I was just riding along passenger. I stayed up till about 3 a.m. just talking to him before I decided to go to bed. Now, Donnie was running a new Cabover Freightliner back then, but back then it was spec for tanker work. And that meant it was riding on about a 180-inch wheelbase with rubber block suspension. So the ride up front wasn't really too bad. But when I crawled in the bunk, the ride back there was just brutal. I thought, well, you know, I'm so exhausted, I'm sure I'll sleep anyway. So I lay down on the mattress, and after bouncing up and down for a few minutes, Donnie hit one hell of a bump, and it flipped me up in the air, and I landed down on the floor. Kicked me right out of the mattress altogether. Now, the floor in this truck, mind you, there was only about this much space between the back of the seats and the doghouse and where the bed frame started. So it wasn't really even much of a space to slide down into, but I must have done a 180 up in the air, and I went down in there like a letter going through a mail slot. And then I had a hard time getting myself back out of there. I thought, holy cow. Hopefully it'll get better. So I crawled back up on the bunk again. 15 minutes later, up in the air, did a half gainer, down on the floor again. I think I got about 2 seconds air time that time before I hit. Crawled back out from back behind the seats in the doghouse in the bed, and crawled up front, and I said to Donnie, I said, Jesus, how do you sleep in this thing? Donnie says, oh, you never done this before? He says, there's a couple of belts. You got to belt yourself in. So I went back in the bunk, turned on the light, and sure enough, here were a couple of seat belts across the mattress. One was about chest height, and one was down around mid-thigh. I thought, okay. So I crawled in, belted myself in, and hung on. I didn't get any sleep at all that first night. In fact, I don't think I got more than a couple hours sleep for the whole week, and what I did get was just sheer exhaustion when the truck was stopped when Donnie was loading. But it was just a brutal ride. So after putting up with this about a week and running on maybe 3 hours sleep, and I said to Donnie, I said, when we get up north, drop me by my car, because I'm bailing on you. I'm sorry, but this thing's beating out of me, and I can't do it anymore. I felt sick, and I was getting out of the thing, and I said, I don't care if they fire me or not. I can't do this. So Donnie kind of laughed, and we got up north, and I got out of the truck, and that was the end of my cabover days, and that was the end of my running team days for a while. Shortly after that, I bought my own first truck, and it was a W9. It certainly wasn't a cabover, I can tell you that. Now, those cabovers are nice to look at today, but back then, it could be like riding a basketball around on the interstate, just hanging on for dear life. And while they look cool, I sure don't miss those old cabover days. Now, I heard from more than a few guys about the ride of these cabovers, and a lot of the older guys remember them just the way I do. But you've got to remember, these trucks were set up completely differently. This was before air ride cabs. You sat over the steering axle, over the front. The motor was beside you. The wheelbases were short, and every time they hit a bump, they would kick back up like this. And there was no air ride in the back suspension. It was just rubber block. So it would just flip you like a spatula in a pancake. It would just toss you. So I sure don't miss having to work the cabovers. They're cool to look at, and also kind of tough to get in and out of too. I fell out of one backwards one time, and that hurt, I can tell you that. But no, while they're cool to look at, I'd take it a conventional all day long. So let me know if you remember cabovers that way. Send me a note. Let me know what kind of truck you were running in and your experiences with it. I imagine they were a lot similar to mine, but write in and let me know how you remember those cabovers. So stay safe, ride smooth, and I'll see you on the backhaul.